In mid-90s, I was on tour in Germany with a trio, and after the performance we went to a club, and there was a sax player, and he just pointed out this girl. So that girl, you know, is half Italian, speaks fluent Italian, and she's an amazing singer. She decided to host all of us into her little apartment, and as I start playing ad-lib chords, and she started following me, improvising.
I was looking for a smooth storm when I heard him pray.
And everybody went really quiet in that room. It looked like we played for years together.
And I tell you that it's true.
I wrote some titles of songs I liked since I was a kid, and we started exchanging tapes and ideas, and everything else is history. Then we went to the studio and started recording. It's a very genuine album. It was really heartfelt, and we're both loving the songs and still love the songs.
Gives you courage to carry on.
It's always a delicate thing going back to a recording you've done before, but I'm more than happy to have done this because I have the feeling that I've proved it, and also with the great help of Tony Platt, which is a fantastic sound engineer and producer, so we should be able to get something really nice out of this.
Won't you stop? Take a little time out with me.
First thing to do was to check that the tape wasn't shedding, because the lubricant can let go of the oxide quite easily with these older tapes. But it's actually fortunately been recorded on one of the later incarnations of the AMPEX tape types, and it's not one of the ones that tends to show up the shedding.
Yeah, but with a bit of luck, 10K should be exactly the same once you've done 1K, providing
the other problem that you can quite often have when tape has been laid on top of itself is that it prints through, because you've got quite a lot of magnetic energy stored on the tape. So that magnetic energy can start to transfer itself from layer to layer. That's quite low, actually.
Though I'm going out of my way, just that I can pass by each day. Not a single word do we say. It's a pantomime and not a play. Still I know all eyes are for me. I feel tingles.
The general quality of sound is excellent, and it's been recorded very, very well.
Wouldn't it be better not to be so polite? You could.
The DtoA 800 tape machine was probably the best 24-track tape machine ever made. The practice has always been to put test tones on the tape that you record on, so that what you're in fact doing is you're capturing the state of the tape machine that it was recorded on at the moment it was recorded. So if you then use those test tones to align the tape, any tape machines you subsequently play it on, and what you want to do is to return the tape machine you're about to play back on to as close to the settings of the tape machine that you recorded on.
Studio 1, is it? It might be, yeah. I'll get one. Right. That's probably
so these are going to need to come down 2 dB.
The next thing that we really needed to listen to is to check that the noise floor out of the tape machine was as low as we could possibly get it. You could try is switch the meter on those 2 tracks. It means that the VU is sitting on output B instead of sitting on output A. Because obviously one of the big problems with analog is trying to get your signal to noise ratio between the music that you want to hear and the noise that is inherent in the shortcomings of the medium, in a balance where you've got as little of the noise and as much of the signal as you possibly can have. The intention is to have a 192 24-bit download available. We had to decide first of all at what point do we go up to the 192, and it wasn't just as simple as, well, we put it up to 192 and then we mix it. We had to decide how were we going to mix it. Are we going to mix it through a large format analog mixing console, or are we going to mix it within the digital domain? The problems if you're mixing within the digital domain at 192 is that a lot of the effects that you might want to use don't actually operate at 192, which would mean that although your recording is 192, you'd be compromising it. In a way, the decision was made for us in the end that to mix it on a large format console was going to be the better route to do it. It's a 24-track tape, one of which has a time code on it, and another one has a click track on it. So some of them are filling up the 22 remaining tracks. Some have got about 10 or 11 tracks. 16 electric bass fretless overdub. .23 click track. We're taking it from the analog tape machine, we're converting it digitally at 192 24-bit, then we are effectively substituting the analog tape machine for the Pro Tools and playing it back from the Pro Tools through digital to analog converters. If you go through those converters AtoD, DtoA, AtoD a couple of times, the things that are nice about those converters start not being quite as nice, because there is a slight coloration, and that coloration is multiplied every time you go backwards and forwards. You know, having established in my mind that that was not the best way to go, I then started deciding what would be the best converter to go back into the Pro Tools. The choice I came down to was the Apogee Symphony. I knew that we could stick it on the end of the Pro Tools system, we could plug it into a Pro Tools card, and it would work straight away. The sound was so much smoother from the Apogee Symphony, and we weren't getting some of the slightly harder artifacts that we would have got by going back in through the 192. Having started the mixing process, I rapidly began realising that there were quite a few other things that I had to pay attention to working at 192. I was aware of the fact that the space between the instruments was opened up quite considerably, but of course, because this is an old analog recording, not that opened up the instruments, but it also opened up the noises and, you know, even just the movement of clothing and the breathing of Antonio. Those things can be distracting. Things that were not distracting in the original 44.1 mix all of a sudden became much louder and much more evident, and therefore quite a lot more distracting. So the mixing process was quite a bit more complicated than I'd first imagined or envisaged that it was going to be. For me, the essential qualities about this album are the air and the space that the original mix had. It's quite luscious and beautiful in that respect. We need to really try and get back to that. This particular project is fabulous, because what you have here is a fantastic artist that's playing fantastically with an album that is beautiful, collaborating with another artist who is also exceptional.
Stop your busy day and take the time out to see that I'm alive.
This one,
Yeah, this is the constant.
so we say this is the constant accompaniment, and we'll put that a bit off to the right.
Still I know all eyes are for me. I feel tingles down to my feet.
It is sounding amazing now. It really sounds beautiful. It just sounds broader, sounds really warm. It sounds like honey now.
I start a little conversation now, it's alright. I just take 5.
We then came up to air mastering with Ray, and we had another set of choices that needed to be made. The first choice was whether we did any final bits of processing within the digital domain, or whether we came back out again into analog and then back in. A large proportion of AtoD and DtoA converters have a personality. And sometimes that you can use that personality to good effect. But in this particular case, we weren't satisfied with it at all. We felt that we were compromising the clarity of the mixes by trying to come out and use analog devices.
Start a little conversation now. It's alright. Just say bye.
Actually, the rest of it was quite simple because we were also faced with the fact that there were very few plug-in devices, software devices, that would work at 192. And we came down to the Sonox plugins, and we used Sonox EQ and we used Sonox limiter. Those two devices really did enhance. We were able to reach in and touch the frequencies that we wanted to touch and just nudge things around a little bit. The mastering process has gone very, very nicely indeed. It's been a very, very interesting voyage of discovery for me. There is no doubt in my mind that it sounds absolutely delightful. It really does. For me, the whole process of digital should be to attain the highest possible resolution that you can.
Everything is kind of a wider sound. It's like putting a beat, wrapping up with a beautiful chord of nice music.
I'm feeling a bit like a pioneer at the moment in terms of doing something that is, you know, fairly complex like this. I'm hoping that we can do a bit more.